Morning to everyone. I am Malik Arman. I am the Deputy Director for E-Learning Unit at the Center for Professional Development IIUM, and I will be your moderator for today's session. And to gain the barakah for today's event, let's start with the recitation of Kitab Al-Fatiha. All right, so it is my pleasure to welcome everyone to our special online seminar or webinar today. And our topic will be about ChatGPT for case study, which will be delivered by Prof. Technologist Dr. Mira from Kuliah of Information Communication and Technology, KICT. And just a little bit of background about Prof. Mira. Okay, so she earned a bachelor in Bachelor of Commerce, Business Information System, Master of Information System, Doctor of Philosophy in Economics and Information System from University of Wollongong, Australia. And her current employment is she's a professor at the Department of Information System, KICT, IIUM. She is currently the director for CPD in IIUM. And some of her achievements here, recipients of Australia Postgraduate Award in 2004, awarded the Higher Degree Research Award for Excellence in 2007, appointed as the Honorary Fellow at University of Wollongong, Australia, and areas of expertise, health informatics, e-commerce, data mining, information system strategy, business process improvement, product development, marketing, delivery strategy. This is just to name a few. Probably she can name it later. She can name more later. Okay, so these are some of the certification, completed several certifications on e-learning and data analytics domain. She is a certified Moodle educator and fellow and instructor for collaborative online international learning COIL for Barzinji project at Shenandoah University, USA. And she is renowned as a passionate cyber parenting activist, work closely with schools and what is it? Muslim societies in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Australia to provide awareness for parents and children on the risk of going online. Okay, so without further ado, the floor is yours, Prof.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Malik. As usual, you stopped me before the session. So thank you so much for the introductions. I think next time, if there's any next time, please feel free just to introduce my name and then we can go ahead with the training. So thank you so much, but I feel very humbled with the kind introductions. Although I don't think many of those are relevant to this training, inshallah. What is relevant to all of us is that all of us are teachers who always learn, and so am I. I'm also in the process of learning. So I really hope in the session today, not only me will be sharing, but I will also learn from all the participants today. So again, thank you so much to Dr. Malik as well as the team from e-learning unit CPD for arranging the session. And I really hope today it will be a lot more interactives. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahilladzi hadana li hadza wa ma kunna linahtadiya laula an hadana Allah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah wa asyhadu anna Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluh. Alhamdulillah. Rabbi sholli sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you so much again for all the participants for joining the training sessions today. Let me just try to pull up the slide. And as I said earlier, I really hope that it will be a lot more interactive. I don't feel the hands-on part will take a lot of time. Although I do aware in the last training, ChatGPT training, I received a lot of feedbacks that they wish, the participant wish we will have a lot more interactive, sorry, a lot of hands-on session, which kind of a guided way on how to use ChatGPT. But I'm very sure if you have been using any generative AI, especially text generative AI, I'm very sure none of the things that I have shown in the past would be new to you. But what I'm trying to offer is basically the perspective on how to use it, especially in our daily life as an educator. Okay, so I'm not sure why it's still. Okay, hope it's worked this time. Okay. All right, so I really hope you can see the screen well. If not, please let me know. Okay, let me just fix this. And if you don't mind, Dr. Malik, since that it will be 2 hours, if I could kindly get around 5 minutes to 10 minutes break in between just to catch up my breath around 11. Is that okay?
Yes, okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, so this is the topic that was entrusted to me by Dr. Malik and the team. And if you have a look on the learning objectives in the invitations through IAM invitations, I'm very sure you would be able to see there's a lot of objectives. I really hope I would be able to cover everything today, but I'm very sure a lot of things that we will be covering today, maybe some of you are new, maybe some of you are very familiar. So we have a very diverse spectrum of someone who are very novice to case study and someone who are very expert with the case study. But today we're going to be fair to everyone, we're going to help everyone, not only just certain specific expertise, but we're going to help everyone from different backgrounds, from different level of case study implementations, as well as from different technical background as well. So for those who are new to generative AI, I'm not advocating ChatGPT per se, but because it is the title that's given, so I think it's okay. But I'm advocating the use of the proper, meaningful, intentional, purposeful use of generative AI. So we going to have a look at a number of platforms. And some of these platforms actually would be better than others. But what is very fundamental to any of these tools is, because it's just the tools, is how you construct the prompt. Okay, so we're going to use the proper prompt for us to construct the case study later on. And also, it will be meaningful for the next process to end, especially once we reach out to once we have reached into the technical part, the hands-on part, that we already have the same understanding of what is case study and how it is actually useful in our class. So I really hope that in this first part, if I could kindly get everyone, so this is basically the agenda. If I could, oops, sorry, I'm not sure. Okay. Right. My goodness. Okay, if I could kindly get your assistance with just answering this one question. I really hope maybe it's easier if I just share this link in the, I'm very sure not many of you is actually in front of the computer. Probably you're actually accessing this from the phone. So let me just share with you the link. Okay, and let me get this Mentimeter on. Okay. I just have two questions. Okay. But it's very fundamental for me to know this because whatever we're going to do later on, we're going to reflect back on these two questions. Okay, so if I could. Let me just pull this up so everyone can actually see the question as well. Okay, so this is basically the first questions. Okay, I asked whether you have used any case study in your courses. So we have, Alhamdulillah, majority have actually used this. And we do have some who have not, and we do have some who are not sure whether they have used or not. So I'm actually purposefully include that third category, not sure, because this is what we observe as well with any other pedagogy, especially when we have to report on Sulam, for example. When we ask whether you have used Sulam, whether your course is part of adopting Sulam, many actually answered no. But when we look at the detail of the course, actually many have implemented Sulam in the course. So the same thing, PBL, project-based learning, problem-based learning, blended learning. So all these are the jargons which probably because of the misinformations or disinformation. A lot of people think that they haven't used any of this approach, but when we dig, especially during the audit, we only realize actually a lot of you have really quite advanced in terms of implementing different pedagogy in your classes. So I think this is time for us to actually, again, as I said, these questions is very important for me to understand whether or not we have approached this pedagogy purposefully or meaningfully, although probably we haven't realized the term that we haven't realized the term of the pedagogical approach that we use, but at least once you know that you have adopted something, but you are not sure whether it's case study or not, then hopefully you will find the answer today. And for those of you who have been using this extensively, you would be able to share as well later on. And for those of you who are skeptical, I'm encouraging you to try to give some rooms, see whether this would be meaningful for you to use in your class as well. That skepticism could be the trigger, the stimuli for a meaningful use of case study as well. All right, so this is the answer so far. We have around 164. As usual, I don't expect 100% participations, but I'm glad that actually almost half participated. Okay, so as you can see, we have majority use case study. Let me see on the next question. So all of this, if I may know, okay. All right, so you can see the response. So let's have a look on what are the challenges that you anticipate, do you anticipate or you have encountered when you're adapting case study in your courses? So have you encountered any challenges? If yes, please feel free to put your response in. Let me just hide the response first. Okay, so it's hidden. So feel free to put in your response. At least we can learn from each other, especially for those who have not used case study. You would be able to know what other people perceive of the challenges of using this pedagogical approach. Okay, so all right, let me just hide response. All right. So that we won't influence each other. So let me just hide the response first. All right, so we have 18 so far. Anyone else would like to chip in your thoughts? 22, okay. So hopefully we could get more. The more likely we will be able to bring something to our class, because I'm very sure a lot of the things that will be shared today will be relevant to your course. Okay. So it's still coming. Let's just see what we have so far. So the common challenges is originality, to create or find the right case study. So I think constructing case study would be relevant to some of this. Okay, so my types of case study not sure which suitable for which study or research. And less idea from students and lecturers, as well as sometimes becomes because we are conducting your curriculum. Good publishable case study, student understanding. So I'm not sure student understanding means that the students are not really engaging in the case study. So I'm not really sure if that is the one. Then this is what we're going to have a look today as well. Okay, to construct an ideal case study, to identify the most suitable case study is okay. Right, so some students were not responsive. Okay, I think this is common to all pedagogical approach. If our style is sage of the stage, if the students perceive us as the sole speakers in the class, usually it will be hard for them to find ideas on what to ask or what to comment. But I'm very sure we would be able to address that through the case study later on. Okay. Reliability of resources, time constraint, loss of work, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so easily accepted for publications. I'm not really sure because I can see a number of concerns just now is related to publication. I'm not really sure where it's heading when it comes to publications, but the topics that we're going to talk today is more to case study that we can actually use in the class on how to use case study as pedagogical approach. So maybe I'm familiar with case study for publications, but if that is what you are expecting from this course, from this webinar, I think you might have misunderstood the title. Actually, what we want to do in this particular webinar is to actually construct a case study that we can actually use in the class to engage the student, especially if you have one of the learning objectives is to address the critical, to stimulate the critical thinking. So this is when we actually use this. All right, so there's more local context and reality, student academic background. Okay. All right. All right. So I see a lot of students' engagement, and I can very much relate to that. If the case is not something that is related to them, it's very hard for our students to relate to be engaged. But I've tested with a number of cases, which is kind of easier for them to relate, especially when we are talking about business. None of them have actually worked. Well, in my case, when I use case study in one of the course called business data analytics, only one or two students out of the many students that I have actually experienced working part-time, or I mean like engaged in the business activities, but majority are not. So in this case, to give a case related to the business processes, only two can relate, and then the rest would probably have to imagine. So in this case, I think engagement can actually be built if we kind of give the right prompt, and then something that is again relate to them, something that doesn't require them to imagine, because they would be able to feel that. And of course, with all this case study by right, it would be good if the students come prepared. So not only they read the case in the class, but it will be good if you provide the case before the class sessions and then give them times to reflect upon it or do some research before the session. So I'm glad I would be able to sort of validate that a lot of things that I'm going to cover today very much relevant to what you have here, inshallah. But except for publications, I don't have any slides related to that. I'm sorry. All right. So let's just proceed with the topic then. Okay. Yeah. Just again, before we proceed, we have discussed about this, how important the critical thinking skills, and this is not only relevant to certain domain, but it's also relevant to any domains which we think case study may not be relevant, but I'm very sure after today, if you would be able to just give again some rooms on benefits of the doubt, see whether some courses who perceive themselves as dry courses, you can actually use this and in different way, in a creative way, because there's no one size fit all. I'm very sure you would be able to see this better once you reflect upon your learning objective, and then you can see whether this pedagogical is something that you can introduce at small scale. And then if you if you teach higher level or much more advanced courses, then you can bring it at a bigger scale. So we can actually scaling up or scaling down the case study. But what we want to address is that we're going to address all the soft skills that we promise we're going to have stimulate in the class. So when you have these promises in the course outline, by right, we should have fulfill our promises by thinking hard of how we can bring that into our courses. So this, let me help you by giving you some ideas, but I'm very sure you would be able to do it much better than me because you have a better references of your domain. But again, let's move one step back and let's have a look what is case study. So by simple definition, usually we call case study as, especially in the context of education, is a detailed analysis of real life situations or problem encountered in a specific context. So I put, usually this is what I do in the class. I highlight or I underline or I make it bold specific keywords that I want them to relate to. So case study, in this case, the same thing that I really hope everyone can relate to. Case study by is supposed to be a real life situation, something that students can relate because it's real life. If they are not able to relate today, hopefully when they actually work, they would be able to relate. But now that since the case study is happening today in the class, so we really hope that they would be able to at least visualize or imagine. That's why if the case study is delivered earlier, they would have time to sort of get a feel or ask around what kind of case is this? What kind of real life situation is this? And the specific context, it has a context. We don't want to generalize. We want to focus on specific organizations, for example, with a specific sector. So it's the more specific the context, the easier for the students to be able to zoom in into the case. And it's designed to stimulate critical thinking and application of theoretical concept. All right. So why case study? All right, so the purpose of using case study in education, usually among others, is actually for engagement. So engagement by presenting realistic, relatable scenarios, making learning more interesting and relevant. And this is very interesting for the students. I mean, like when I see the reflections, when I use case study, and the case study is something that is relevant and interesting for them, the level of engagement is amazing. I learn a lot from how they see something that we probably take things for granted, but the young generations have a different kind of references in life. So when they look at the case, they would be able to find a different perspective, which we probably haven't thought about it earlier. So why I'm so kind of hooked, if I can say, using case studies, because of it gives me opportunities to learn while I'm teaching. So this is one of the things. And I don't mean to share this, but I'm so glad that earlier this year, I have the opportunities to actually learn from a training, a short course in Harvard. So it wasn't sponsored by IUM, so I don't get special treatment. But Alhamdulillah, one of the NGOs in US actually sponsored me to go to Harvard. So I experienced the course there on teaching with cases. So this is one of the, if I can share, this is some of the, this is some of the teaching materials on how they map the cases, the time durations given for each sessions, how long the prompt to how long the actual discussions happen. And then, so when I see the plan, the teaching plan, the cases, it's amazing. And no wonder the students felt, no wonder first it's very expensive college, of course, but no wonder it's something that people always heard when it comes to this particular college, because I was in Harvard Business School. They have a very, very, very extensive cases. They have a lot of cases that they put as part of the case bank. So in this case, I think once you have learned the tools today, you can actually build a lot of cases. And just now, I think someone said that we are having a hard time to construct the case. So once you have the tools, now we have all the generative AI, you would be able to construct like 3 different cases, and then you would be able to have the feel at the first class of the semester whether the case A or case B or case C would be suitable for your cohort, for your students. So you would be able to have a lot of references to which courses to bring in, because you will be able to see what kind of background your students has, and then by bringing a much more relevant case, you will get that engagement. The next one is application theory. All this one we've been teaching the theory, and when I audited number of courses, what is interesting is that especially the course that promised in MQF 2.0 on critical thinking, most of the assessment that was constructed is more on quizzes, as much as probably I think it's going to be a long debate on whether we can actually assess critical thinking through quizzes. I respect whoever believe it is, but I think it will not be, just because it can probably, but I'm not sure whether it is meaningful enough for us to know the students' ability on especially applying theories or critical thinking, assessing the theories, how the certain things actually apply. It will not be as meaningful as when we actually engage them through different pedagogical approach. And one of them is case study, and there are many more. We have project-based, we have problem-based, and many more. But this is when we can actually see whether the students have abilities to relate to all of the theories or some of the theories that we covered in the class. And of course, the critical thinking, as what we've discussed earlier. And problem solving. So when we look at the case, and later on, we're going to have a look on how to construct a proper case. So it actually does stimulate critical thinking. I've seen a number of cases as well in which it was constructed in a way that it is straight to the point, like especially when you have antagonists, and antagonists, if you use the case by using antagonists, and everybody would know, like, can relate. Oh, this is bad. Like, why should I give a comment? Everybody knows that this is the person is have done a lot of something that is not suitable, but it doesn't stimulate debate. In other words, by right case should stimulate debates, stimulate different perspectives, stimulate different way of solving problems. So this is we should embed some kind of complex situation in which the students would be able to identify problems, evaluate alternatives, and propose solutions. So if we could come up with such cases, again, we can come back to the first point, we could actually engage the students better. And of course, and this is very important, especially in my course, because again, as I said, I'm teaching business data analytics. A lot of things I used to teach the business data analytics. Now I'm coming to first year courses, but when I was teaching fourth year courses, this is a very important because we are preparing them to join the work environment. So decision making is a very critical. So when we want to simulate how the decision making process, we have to give the role that they have to make decisions. So they cannot be like abstain. I don't want to make a decision. There's no way. You have to make decisions based on the information given, based on the all the factors that is provided. And I have discussed with many industries. This is a very important skills, and unfortunately, many of our students will only stimulate on making such decisions when they have joined the workforce. So I really hope it will be improved with the situations now that we are coming back to classes and a lot of things actually happening in classes. You would be able to engage them, convince them that this is very important skills that everyone should have. And collaboration and communication, something it's very clear that we have a case study actually constructed to also become a tools for social constructivists, which everyone learn from each other. We construct a new knowledge, we construct a new way of thinking. So we are, in a way, we are actually training the students to be able to listen and to be able to convey the ideas meaningfully and thoughtfully. So this is, again, what the skills is needed, not only when they are joining the workforce, but also in the learning environment. This is a very important skills for them to actually succeed. Okay, so I know it's been a long time, and usually the most feedback is when I'm talking fast, I will start rapping. So I would give sometimes, perhaps, if anyone would like to ask questions or wants to give any feedback. Is there any questions, Dr. Malik, in the chat?
So far, no.
Okay.
Dr. Mira.
Sure. Yes, Dr. Muhammad.
Assalamualaikum. Sorry.
Salam.
I think one of the fundamental problems we have come across, not only over here, generally in tertiary education in Malaysia and the similar countries, that there is a significant gap between the secondary and secondary level of education and tertiary education. So we do not find out the readiness of the students. This is very fundamental problem. Even very basic things, let's say geographical definitions or the places of countries or international organizations, means that there is a significant gap. So how the university engage with through a higher education ministry and reach the Minister of Education, and they try to find out some sort of combination and the preparation of the students for the tertiary education. Probably there are some attempts, but I think there is quite a weakness over here we observe. And the second one is that we have international university over here, different universities, students from different countries. They have different experiences, even they do not have a similarity in the context of educational background or academic background. So it's quite difficult to make them in the one area to adopt a kind of sustainable teaching learning process. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad. Hopefully I get your questions right. So the first one is on the gap from secondary to tertiary. Are you referring to certain skills or certain? Okay, so if this is related to certain skills, it is interesting when I was in a short course in Harvard, and one of the professors said, because I was encouraged to keep giving feedback, making comments and whatnot. So I was among the people, well, if everybody knows me, you know that sometimes I cannot stand still, you know, when things are kind of intriguing to be commented, I would just raise my hand and I will comment on things. And he's saying, okay, so this is interesting culture because he has been traveling a lot to Asia, including Malaysia. He has been teaching a number of university, invited professor into a number of MBA programs. He said, usually my class is very quiet, but this is the first time I have hands like been raised a number of times today. So like, so he said, what triggers you? And I said, it's very common in certain Well, probably because we have been, all of us are actually lecturers, so we have been trained to be more engaged and more active. But we also acknowledge, yes, for certain, especially certain cultures, they are very careful when they want to raise the hand, especially, and he noticed that some people perceive if I raise my hand and I make certain comment and my comment is not, they have, what happens in their brain is that if I raise my hand and I raise and make some comment and my comment is not perceived as smart, people might think that I'm not smart enough or I'm losing face and things like that. So this is what he perceived is happening in Asia. But when a number of us, in fact, we have a number of Asian, we have some from Japan, we have some, and quite a number of us is actually engaged in the session. So he said, wow, this is different from my experience teaching in a number of countries. So and he's teaching MBA. So you can see even MBA level, we do have number of students who are not really engaged, who are not really participating. So that's why he really have to revise, and I think all of us as well, we have to revise again the case. What happened with the case is the prompt question is too difficult, is the case is too complex, or things like that. That's why we can scale up, we can scale down, we can actually fine-tune the case. So that's what I learned a lot from then, because again, if this is the kind of challenges happening there, I'm very sure it's also relevant for us. But I'm very sure because these kind of issues have kind of pops up a lot during a number of meetings in KPT. So I'm very sure at third level we do notice this, and now that I really hope both ministries actually talking to each other. Hopefully, both will be able to sort of stimulate the abilities to talk, to convey ideas as early as in the early age. So it should not be a shock when they're only in university they learn how to make all this kind of build this kind of skills. So I'm very sure that is happening, inshallah, Dr. Mehmet. On the second questions, I hope. Would you mind to reiterate, because I'm worried I might misunderstood your questions.
It's related to the first one, but in the scale of internationalization. I mean, we
Okay.
have multiple multinational universities and many students coming from different backgrounds, but again, weaknesses. There is no any sustaining way to reach them, or they themselves to reach us. Because of weakness. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. One of the things that I learned a lot from managing intercultural and very dynamic classes is when I taught SCH, and I'm so thankful to SCASH for allowing me to teach allowing me to have one of the sections in which I can actually experiment with certain pedagogical approach. The students come from different background, from different age, because some of them actually at first year, some of them they actually took it when they're about to finish. So it is very interesting to see the difference perspective and whatnot. So in this case, maybe we can actually experiment or simulate a certain approach when we have much more diverse background. But I'm very sure in terms of cultural in our classes, which I'm not sure whether it's the same case in your faculty, but in my kuliah, the culture may not be as much of an issue because we are technical background. I'm from IT, so we are not very much. Maybe it is, but not as critical as any other skills, because what we also see the gap in terms of technical skills. Some of them that actually comes very well versed with a lot of technical skills. Some of the students comes with very much limited exposure to technology. So I think that those are the more issues that we have to cater. So when it comes to culture, we take note, but usually we find a way to facilitate in different way, not through the case study. But in my case now, because I'm teaching first year, and this relate to one of the questions on the chat box just now, whether it's actually related to whether it actually can be applied to in first year. I do apply at small scale in my class, in my database system class. It's very technical course, but I try to bring in the case study, the mini case study, just to stimulate, just to engage them to think that this, whatever techniques we learn in database, designing a database, actually it's about life. So if your database is not designed properly, at the end of the day, it will be user that will be impacted. So I'm giving a number of cases in which it actually relates to the user, and the root cause is design problem with the database. So it's first year. So and when I see how engaged they are, and they're giving some of the examples in which relevant for them, yeah, I can very much relate to that because I have used this system and it gives me a wrong information and how it affects you. And he said, I'm very frustrated because I feel it shouldn't be the case. This is technical and the system is kind of measured. It should not be this way. So this kind of things is what priceless in class. So if we bring in those kind of small cases, doesn't have to be very big, like maybe 1 or 2 paragraph, just stimulate that these technical things matters. It's not just you have to do it, it's because it's important. But how would you know that it's important unless you know that it's actually cause issues at one level of life when the technical are not implemented properly. So this is one of the things that perhaps we can do to engage at whichever level, at whichever courses. But then again, if you would want to experiment with much bigger courses with different backgrounds, I encourage to, again, perhaps you can volunteer for SCASH, course the STSH 1201, if I'm not mistaken. That could be one of the approach. Okay. Can I proceed? Is there any other questions?
I think there are a few more questions then.
All right, okay. Right, so if we present a real case scenario, medical students in the exam asking questions to apply learned knowledge, but we will not ask them to make decisions to treat because they are still, is this case study? Maybe I can show you for this one. I would probably answer with a number of slides that I have in the next, in the coming slides. Okay, so I hope you don't mind. I will come back to this, Dr. Hamad. And the next questions, you mentioned that case study is used to stimulate higher thinking among students, evaluating alternatives and choose the best solve the case student. Does that mean the case study should have minimum level of cognitive requirement? In other words, case study is not simply a method to ask question in a more complex settings, but question itself need to be higher cognitive level. Okay. This is a higher order thinking question. So I would probably again answer this. For me, the bottom line of case, which I'm going to show later on, is it helps me to achieve learning objectives. So if I see what is meaningful or not, does it help me to achieve my learning objective? That's the first on-off button. If you have a very sophisticated course, but it doesn't really help you to achieve your learning objective, I think that would be just such a waste of time because students should have learned something that is meaningful for them. So level of cognitive, level of all those kind of things, you would know better because you know what you have inside the course online and what is the cognitive level you are trying to address. But when we are talking about minimum cognitive level, I think you also have to be careful with playing with just the terms because I'm worried a lot of us today, we are really playing a lot with these kind of terms, especially when I came across some of the course online and at the 4th level, 4th year courses. And the course is very much addressing the C3, C2, C3 describe, which is C2, right? Describe. So I'm kind of sad, honestly, when I look at the courses at 4th year level and what you expect them is just describing. So I think if you would want to have it a lot more meaningful educations, I think we should have expect. And there's one thing in education that I learned a lot when I was in Australia is there's something called Pygmalion effect. The more you expect the students to be able to reflect good things from the learning process, the higher the expectations, the more likely the students would be able to reflect good things from the learning process. So these expectations, of course, it has to be meaningful enough. So you know that you have provide all the things, the if I can use the equity term, that you are providing the right supports for everyone. Again, as I said, if I'm coming back to my class, some students come with a very advanced cognitive level when it comes to technical because they have been exposed with programming in high school. Some haven't. So in this case, do I have to only cater the one that actually very advanced because they are so close to my learning objective? I don't think that's fair. They are come here to learn. So I have to really assist everyone. And that's when the equity comes in. So the minimum cognitive level, I think that would be very much things that you have set as the basic for everyone to have. If someone actually needs to get more support, then you would be able to supplement with additional resources. But I'm very sure this is some of the things that perhaps we will be able to assess better because our domain will be very much different. So I don't think I would be able to do justice if I assess what is the cognitive level required for your domain. But that's the first question is that I want to ask you, whether you have assessed every case study that you have implemented in the class, have you assessed and aligned that to your learning objective? Not just for the sake of having a pedagogical approach, but it really is support your learning. It really is help the students to achieve the learning objective, to fulfill the learning objective. Okay. All right. So I really hope that answer. Otherwise, feel free to unmute and then give your comment. Right. So let me proceed to the next one. So let me highlight a number of essential characteristics on what is an effective case study. Again, just now we have some cases which the students are not very much engaged or relevant to relate to. So in this case, let me just have a look. Let me show you some of the essential case study. Essential characteristic of effective case study. The first one, again, coming back to Dr. Isaac's question just now, I just want to make sure every time you construct a case study, do refer to your learning objective of the course, learning outcome of the course. The case study should have clear learning objectives. What do you want to achieve from these cases? And we have to ensure that the whatever requirements for the students to be able to achieve these learning objectives have actually fulfilled in the class. So if you're about to give that topic in the later stage, maybe it is a good idea to just bring that case when the relevant skills actually being conveyed, so or being addressed. So in this case, we can see how things are actually scaffolded, and we also want to see whether the case study that we're actually trying to construct is related to something that they can imagine, something that they can ask around, something they can actually research on, because it's something that is real life. If they cannot relate to the whole case, at least they would be able to relate to some of the elements in which help them to understand the case better. And if they cannot, again, relate to the case, they would be able to know what are the references that help them to actually get them engaged or get them closer, will be able to help them relate to the case. So in this case, I think it will be good if the case study is based on the real life situations or closely simulated situations to the course content. Let me just share with you one of the case that I constructed, and I'm so glad I get this information from a real organization. So it so happened that right before COVID, I actually giving trainings on data analytics to small businesses, especially in managing day-to-day operations, coming up with a report. So it so happened that one of the company reached out to me, and I was asking whether I could actually have the problems that they're actually experiencing, and I construct them as a case study. And they agreed. So when I constructed the case study, to my surprise, the owner actually reached out to me. Is it better if I provide the case directly in the class? So the students have references in terms of a number of paragraphs about the case. So after they read the case, the owners actually jump in and then give a much more detailed descriptions of what are the issues that actually he experienced especially the case was very much relevant because to everyone, to all the students, because it was things related to COVID and how it actually hampers the businesses. So in this case, although the students doesn't have the background in the business environment, but the case was there to help them understand the situations. The owners actually giving the briefings on how much it affects the business process and how much it actually affects on the business sustainability. This has become something that is relevant. So not because of the students have work, because something that they can relate to. So if you can bring this kind of elements to your course, I think it will be easier for the students to reflect. And again, as I said, when I read through, because I asked the written as well as the video reflections, amazing on the body language that they when they try to record the reflections, the emotions comes in. That is when I feel learning happen, because they can relate to it. And then they said, I never thought business can be this complex, given a lot of situations when I thought all businesses would be able to survive COVID. But I didn't know that certain sectors actually affected by this a lot, especially when it comes to marketing, when it comes to teaching, reaching out to a bigger market, because the local market is no longer feasible. So this is not one of the things that amazing. For me, it's amazing because the theory that I showed in the class probably have only reached half of that, but they would be able to elaborate more beyond the things that I showed in the class. And complexity. So by right, an effective case study would have a level of complexity, because effective case study, when you have a complex issue, it requires the students to consider multiple perspectives and integrate various pieces of information. I will show you what I have in the class later on, the elements of cases that I have. And then the last one is engagement and interest. It will be great if the case study is something that is engaging and thought-provoking to capture students' interest and encourage active participation. Again, if the students are not really able to engage, you can actually fine-tune with the different prompt, or started with the very simple prompt questions, and then progress to a much bigger, a much more advanced prompt question. So one of the things that I learned a lot during the teaching with cases workshops is how the when you if you have a look on, I think there's a lot of videos on how Harvard Business School actually conducted case study. So I came across a number of videos on YouTube. The style of the facilitators, the learning facilitators, the lecturers, the professors in the class is very dynamic. You are able to navigate different kind of conversations. So I saw a lot of walking down up to the stairs, engaging the students, then coming back to the board, writing down the points. It's so amazing. So this is why I kind of fall in love with this approach, because it's very, very meaningful, not only for the students, but also for us. But we have to be able to navigate properly. So let me just give you a comparison, if anyone have thought that this is actually equivalent to project-based learning. So in project-based learning, it involves students working on a project over an extended period, often culminating in a final product or presentation. But if we compare to case study, in PBL, for project-based learning, because problem-based learning is also PBL. So for project-based learning, the scope case study are usually shorter and more focused on specific scenarios, where project-based learning encompasses broader and more complex tasks. When it comes to structure, case studies provide defined context and sets of problems to solve, while project-based learning allows more open-ended exploration and creativity. When it comes to assessment, case study often involve immediate analysis and discussions, whereas project-based may require ongoing assessment and feedback. And that is project-based, and this is problem-based. Problem-based involves students working on complex real-world problems without predefined solution. Okay, so I think it's kind of similar in a way with a case study. But But the difference is in terms of narratives, case study often provide narrative or context to the problem, making it more relatable and engaging, whereas problem-based learning might not always include a narrative. Guidance, case study usually offer more structured guidance and specific questions to address, while problem-based learning usually encourage more open-ended exploration. Outcome on problem-based learning usually, of course, the main thing is it's kind of similar. We want to stimulate, we want to promote critical thinking and problem-solving skills, but case study often focus on analyzing predefined scenarios. So usually later on, you will be able to see we have protagonists and a number of situations, which is a predefined. So the students kind of like directed towards certain areas because we want to have certain, for example, certain specific context that we want to address through case study. Okay. All right. Let me just conclude for this first part before we go for a break. So let me just share with you some of the example. If someone said, oh yeah, case study is easy to be implemented in social science, but it is not for engineering. I think I've heard that a lot. I think that's a misunderstanding because even engineering, you do have a number of cases very interesting for you to implement in the course. And recently in one of the conference, I came across a very interesting case study from one of the university in Netherlands on engineering, humanitarian engineering, which is the case study is how to provide. So they actually have it as a case study which collaborate. The case is actually collaborated with one university in Jordan. They are building portable houses, and then the portable houses is meant for to be transferred to Jordan for the refugee from Palestine. So this is a very, very interesting and mind-blowing project in which how they designed portable houses, which can then be turned into classes, which can then be turned into, so it can also be turned into schools. It can also be turned into, I think there was three different purposes. I can't remember, but those are the things that really struck with me is that how these people who have no idea what kind of Islamic requirements, we do have Islamic requirements too, right? When it comes to designing a house. So they learn in a way, so they learn from the case. Okay, so this is when the requirements come from certain religious background. These are some of the things that they have to address and how they design it so that it still be able to be portable and multifunctions. But this is one of the things that perhaps we can actually bring in to our class. And this is for exotic actually comes from my class, the one that I mentioned earlier. So companies facing significant decline in sales because of the COVID, and then they're actually asking help in a way to develop a new marketing strategy to regain the market share. So we learn on market analysis, we learn on text mining analytics, how that product can be coupled with different products, and how we actually kind of learn how to forecast the financial implications. So first, from one case, they learn a lot of things and they would be able to relate to a lot of things. This is the part that I said the students were able to reflect beyond things that I taught in the class. And healthcare, I'm very sure I've seen a lot of case studies from healthcare courses, so I'm very sure this is not new. But then again, technical courses would be very much be able to use this pedagogical approach. Okay, so probably we could have a 10 minutes break or 5 minutes break. I'm not sure how long is reasonable, Dr. Malik. Let me just catch a break.
Up to you. How many minutes you want?
How many minutes do I want? Is 5 minutes time? Is 10 minutes okay?
10. Okay, sure. 10.
Okay. So if 10 minutes okay with everyone, we'll come back in about, or maybe we come back in about 11:10. So 8 minutes will be great for me.
8 minutes, eh?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, okay. So I'll see you guys in
All right, we're back. You can continue, Prof.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you managed to get some coffee or tea to get refreshed. Okay. Right. So let's continue a little bit with what we are trying to do in constructing the case. So when we are trying to construct the case, I'm sorry, didn't realize I haven't shared the screen. Okay. So when we want to construct the case, which we're going to do next, what we're going to have a look is first the suitable tools. Usually, I'm the kind of person that doesn't start with the tools. I start with the prompt, and the prompt is usually I would type it in Microsoft Word. I will not type it directly on any of this, but let me just share if if anyone still think that we are still in the world of ChatGPT, the player is a lot, and in fact, there are many more. So we do have ChatGPT, of course. We have Gemini. It used to be Bard from Google. Copilot is from Microsoft. I'm not sure whether anybody have tried Cloud. So this is another AI generative AI tools, text generating AI, and we also have Perplexity. I know last time, if anyone joined the session with Dr. Asma, she's the kind of person who preferred to use this instead of any other tools. But I'm personally would find weaknesses and strength in each tool. So I'm not advocating any tools. I'm advocating the, again, meaningful, thoughtful, purposeful, intentional use of any of these tools that we have. This is just a tools, but what makes these tools meaningful, what makes these tools useful is when we're able to provide the right prompt, and we can actually combine the answer from many of these tools. But before we jump into the tools, I just want to highlight, I really hope you have your course outline handy with you. We're going to have a look on learning objective if you feel that you have remembered it by heart. So feel free to not refer to it. We can just refer to your memory. What do you feel the course is, but what do you have to achieve from the course? But it will be great if you have the latest course outlines that have been endorsed in Senate. So you would be able to make sure that whatever teaching materials you produce in this course is relevant and is relate and is fit to the learning objective that you have in that course, which is the course that you have proposed to Senate and it has been endorsed in Senate. So that's the first one. The second one is we're going to look at the relevant topic. So whatever the course outline you have, we're going to pinpoint what are the things that fit to that course and really something that students would be able to relate, to resonate. And then we're going to research a little bit on the case, and then we're going to develop the case narratives. And we will also, if we have, even better, if we can include some data. So because my courses is related to data, so of course, all of the case studies that I have requires data, something that the students would be able to analyze to come up with justifications why certain approach is proposed, a certain solution is proposed. The next one is we're going to have a look on the kind of questions and prompt, and this is specifically during the workshops that I attend. This is a very, very critical because you set the starting point of your case through the prompts, through the case study prompt, the case study question. So in this case, it would be great if we really take this carefully when we are trying to design the form questions when you start the case study. What would be the first questions that you will ask everyone to respond? That usually the most critical, the most important questions that you have to think because that will set the start of your discussion. And the plan of the classroom implementations. What is interesting, what I learned from the workshop is that in most of the universities, especially in US, they actually for case study, they have a different form table. So in this case, what I've been informed is that the sitting is fixed. So during the 2 days workshops there, my I'm sitting fixed, and so glad I'm actually sitting in the middle facing the board, so it's easier for me to read. Because for those sitting on the next side, I'm very sure it's, unless they really have a good eye, it's probably kind of difficult to see when the instructors actually jot down the points from the discussions. But that's, again, we really hope that we are not giving advantage to one person. Even better if we know the student challenges on the eyesight or things like that before we assign certain sitting for the students. So this is one of the things that perhaps we can think when we plan for the classroom implementation. And the last one, of course, very important, is the how would you assess the students? So this is another thing that perhaps we can also come up with the hands-on today. So if you could, let's jump into any of the tools. But before, if you could log into any of the platforms that I have here, I have actually logged into a few. Let me, oops, a second. Okay, so I've logged into a few here. For your information, you will not be able to use Copilot using IUM account. Apparently, it's just not allowed. But if you have personal Microsoft account, you can use that. So I think this one. So this is what I have logged into. So I have ChatGPT, I have Copilot. Oops. So I have Copilot, and I also have Gemini, which is doesn't work. I have to jump into different web browser. But you can also try with, just now we have Cloud. This is another one that I use a lot. Okay, so you can use any of this if you haven't logged into any, perhaps you can just use your Gmail account, or which is easier for you to log in into. So it's up to you which one that you are prefer to. I'm not talking about specific platform, but I'm just trying to introduce that we do have more than ChatGPT. There are a lot more platforms that you can actually explore. But let's have a look on. Okay, so when it comes to creating a prompt, let me just highlight what are the important things when you're creating a prompt. First is the prompt should know who you are. Okay, what you do, what course you teach. Okay, so we're going to answer this. If you, the more information we can actually provide in the prompt, the better, because I'm very sure probably some of you are familiar with the algorithm that all these platforms actually use. That actually will break it into a number of parts, and then the more it actually complement, or the more actually it completes the understanding of the machine of what we're actually looking for, the better. So again, who are you, what you do, what course do you teach, who are the students. Okay. Okay. If you have a few, then maybe you can list all of the learning objectives related to the course, or if the case study only relevant to certain learning objective, then you can just simply put in the learning objective that specifically relate to the case study. And if you want to deliver it in the class, maybe you can also mention how long is the duration.
What precious remains to you? and you want smartphone that big.
So how long is the duration of the session? So for example, you would want to have it delivered in 60 minutes or 90 minutes. So you can actually put that in. And if there's any other information that is very, very specific to your course, you can actually put that. Again, the more comprehensive the information is, the better. So let me give you some example with the prompt, and then you will be able to see the result. Usually I will give you the prompt, right? So when I give you the prompt, I'm worried you will not be able to see the structure, the reasoning why I put it that way. So I prefer today we're going to do it this way, so that at least you know why that prompt is actually designed in such a way, and why do I have that long prompt in my ChatGPT or whatever platform that I have shown you in the past. So let me show you with this example. Okay. So this is basically who are you and what you do. So everyone is actually here. Everyone is a professor, because in US it doesn't matter assistant, associate, full professor. Everyone is professor. So you can put it professor. If you don't feel comfortable to put professor, you can put faculty member. But because a lot of references that being referred by all these Gen AI is actually most of the literatures come from US. So when you put lecturer, usually it doesn't give the right response. It doesn't, maybe now, but back then it wasn't really give me the right response. So when I put faculty members or professors, it's give a lot more relate, a lot more meaningful answer, because they need the persona, they need the who is the person that is asking this information for. They will relate to that. So it will be adjusted as part of the important informations in the algorithm. Okay, so I'm teaching business data analytics for fourth year course, fourth year students. Okay. Okay. Here's my grammar. So don't have any working experience. Okay, then you can actually put in the learning objectives here. Let me just try to pull in the learning objectives that I have for this course. Okay. My goodness. Okay, so while I'm trying to pull in the learning objective, feel free to experiment with yours, with your course. Okay, so okay. Just when I need it, it's not showing. Okay. All right, so this is what I have from the course outline. Oops. Okay, so the course focusing on the methodologies, on evaluation methodologies and technologies. And if you would want to make it a lot more clearer, you can actually include the topics that the case study is actually referring to. Like, for example, in my case, probably I would very much prefer that the case study would relate to the predictive analytics. Okay, so this is where we're going to ask ChatGPT to generate the case study. Please generate a case study. Okay, the case study will be delivered in 90 minutes. Please prepare the teaching plan. For the session. And okay. From question. Okay, so again, I will share with you in the chat box, but feel free to modify to your course. Okay, so I will share in your chat, in the chat box. Feel free to modify according to your course, change the background of the students if it's not the same as what you have, change the duration, change the learning objectives, change the topic. So this is the reasoning why we have it this way, because the more, again, coming back to my earlier points, the more you provide the information, the easier you will be able to fine-tune the answer later on. Because if you only give bit and pieces, of course, the remaining will have to be filled by the machine. And when the machine is actually unable to give the suitable, it will either be guessing or hallucinating. And we don't want them to come to that part of the machine. So we would want to give as much as information as possible for them to come up with the most accurate answer if possible. So once you have this, then you can jump into your platform. You will be able to see the difference. Not all platform is the same. Okay, let me just come back to this. Okay, so let me start with the ChatGPT first. Okay. Okay, so as you can see in here, you have some ideas at least from here on what kind of cases that is suitable for this kind of course. And then you can actually ask ChatGPT to elaborate more. So, for example, here, so the first case is on sales, on sales forecasting. Okay, so you can actually ask, please. My goodness. Okay, so you know that point one is about the forecasting case, but you can also mention if you don't want to give that, so you can mention that I want the point on for sales forecasting. So if you don't want to give this, so more descriptions on sales forecasting. Okay, so while this is still running, I will try different tools. As you can see, that's for ChatGPT, and this is for Copilot. Okay, so I will also try with Cloud. Okay, so as you can see, the Cloud one is kind of it has a different approach rather than looking at the case. It's actually looking at the techniques. So for Cloud, it's actually the approach is let's have a look on data explorations. Let's have a look on the data. Let's do the data analysis together. And then let's have a look on the case. Now, since everyone is familiar with the data, let's have a look on the forecasting approach. So it's kind of like a different approach proposed by Cloud. If we have a look on Copilot, trying to find the word, sorry. For the Copilot, it actually provide the simple case study. And then in here, it actually recommend, what kind of data actually would be suitable for this kind of case. So in this case, I'm actually given some, ideas on what kind of data I can bring into the class. I can bring in some sales data, marketing spend quarter, per quarter CPI, and then so on and so forth. So in this case, these are some of the recommended data. If it's something that you have, then maybe you can start thinking on how we can give this data earlier, so during the class time you would be able to focus more on the discussion. So this is some of the ideas on data sets which is in Copilot. Here it doesn't really give the specific data sets, but it actually recommend a much more generic, so it's not so much of the what kind of data sets per se, but in this case, this data set contains daily sales data for the past 3 years, and then so on and so forth. So it has a different kind of data sets that Copilot, Cloud, and ChatGPT recommend. So this is the reason why don't just use one tool. Compare with a number of tools, because each of these tools have strength and weaknesses. I usually would again look at different, as I said, different responses, and then I will try to make sure, again, assessing whether any of this information still relate to my research, still relate to my learning objective. If it's a little bit too far from the learning objective, then I will fine tune with the informations that I got from different tools. So you can actually combine. Well, there's no restrictions on how you actually use this information. So you can actually combine and mix it to make it your own. So it will be one case study that you built, because you actually, there's a process of constructing it again by using all these materials. So this is our raw materials, and then you construct your own case using this. I think that's one of the things that the importance of not only relying on one tools. And again, as I said, this is not only it. You have Gemini. You can actually try with Gemini. You can also try with Perplexity. But I think these three kind of give you some ideas on how the response will not be the same from one tool to another. And this give you a lot of rooms for innovations and innovating with your own cases, constructing your own cases. Okay. If anyone prefer to have protagonists, usually one of the case that I prefer to construct is to have protagonists. So you can actually create a prompt with this. So in this case, you can actually elaborate more. So you can have regressions. I also cover forecasting. Please generate case study and prompt questions that's suitable for my course. The case study should have a protagonist in which the person role is the manager, or let's just put it as CFO of the company. And then you come up with the result. Again, you fine tune, see whether the protagonist with the role is really interesting. If the protagonist role is interesting. If it's not, then you can actually again fine tune the prompt. I don't want this to be that kind of case. I want it to be this kind of problem. So you can actually again modify the case. So because I already have the prompt, let me just copy this. Okay, and so on. So you can again try with Copilot whether it will be good if we have a protagonist, because sometimes during, well, this is actually human nature, right? It's easier for us to comment on a person's rather than on a conceptual or on a theoretical base. So when you are commenting on that, for example, in this case, is the name of the person is Sarah Lee. So you can actually ask what Sarah Lee should do. What are the things that you wish Sarah Lee should consult before making such a decision? Or if you can actually triggers with a lot more, something that is easier for the students to look at it from different perspective, because they are not commenting on themselves, they're commenting on a role, a person with a certain role, which the roles give them the ideas on what are the things that this person should know. So this is a lot more interesting when you have a protagonist in your case study. Okay, so you can see from here different scenarios. Okay, so as usual, Copilot will go with Jendo. Okay, so this one. Okay, so in this case, as the CFO, you are responsible. So a lot of cases that I look at from HBS, usually they will not use a person, the student itself as filling the role. So usually they will use a protagonist, the person, another person that is portraying the role or the kind of person with the kind of individuals with the dilemma that they have to solve. So the students will see themselves as a third person. So it is, which is, I think in my case, it's a lot more meaningful. It's a lot more engaging as compared to what would you do? Usually the students will be like, what should I do? But if it's looking at from the third angle, they feel less blame, or they feel like, oh, it's not me. So that's a lot more, giving a lot of rooms for engagement. So I think this is some of the examples that I could think of, but I would be more than happy if you have any questions, and perhaps I can demonstrate on how it actually can be done if you have specific requirement for your case. So this is probably what I can do for now. Anyone, let's open for discussions, or if anyone would like to share your thoughts, feel free to unmute.
There is one question from Dr. Amanatul Zakia. Can we make sure the students will complete their case studies without using the ChatGPT? Is it possible?
Okay. All right. My comment will be this. The one that I have been showing since 10 o'clock when we start this session is we ourselves construct the case study, not for the students to construct the case study. So we construct the case study so that we can bring the case to the class, and then in the class, we're going to have that kind of discussions, engaging discussions, engaging a meaningful, thought-provoking kind of debate that we would want them to actually come to the class prepared, and they would be able to offer propose some kind of thoughts and feedback on how they would be able to approach the case. So I will not come to the class and give them time to play around with ChatGPT. I will ask them to come to the class and talk. If they have actually come during the preparations before come to the class and they actually use ChatGPT, I think by all means, why not? Because that's probably something that they would refer to. But I'm very sure, and I can very much guarantee, if you really, really construct a case properly, you don't take things for granted from ChatGPT. You construct, again, as I said, you combine from multiple sources, which is what we do as an academicians, right? We don't take things for granted. We combine, we process, we fine-tune with what we have from the previous courses or other courses or other references. Then when we have it our own, when the students come to the class and they actually bring in some perspective from ChatGPT, you would be able to elaborate more. So usually what happens in the class is that the students will start giving feedback, right? So for example, A give feedback on the case, and I said, okay, so I'll write down in the board, okay, so this is what A said. So for example, on the issues of AI in business, how it actually improved the productivity of the employee. So I write down. So the benefits is productivity. And then I move on to the next student. So what do you think? Do we have any other benefits? Do we have any challenge? Do we have any disadvantages? How it affects them? So we kind of like navigate the discussion. So if the students come using the ChatGPT, I think that only benefits them in terms of getting to know the case a little bit better, but it doesn't really help them to actually complete, as you mentioned, complete the case. After all, it comes back to what you are looking for in the student's answer. If you are looking for the answer that they easily can find in ChatGPT, they would probably have find it yesterday. So I don't think it should be a concern. In my case, I don't think it should be. It never been a concern for me, because even though, like, for example, now ChatGPT can easily generate a lot of code, and I know my students. I told my students, I know you can generate this in 3 minutes, but why you have to learn the basics? Because ChatGPT can generate the codes, but it doesn't able to fine tune, optimize, and not to mention, remember the ethical breach that you could actually have in the code if you don't think it properly. So if you're looking for the answer that ChatGPT has, bad luck, because they already have all the answer. But if you're looking for the answer that demonstrate their ability to think again with the prompt questions that you have, these tools is just the tools, and your students can do wonders. I think that's what I can say. Okay, so can we add lesson objective in the prompt? Yes, you can have as many as lesson objectives as you have. If you have a few, that's very good questions. Dr. Noriza, if you have a few, what I would suggest is that you put this, for example, you have two. So one, and then you put another one. So you put here, and then the research, another learning objectives. So you put another one here. So you put that in the double brackets just to make sure that they will take it as a set. It will not be separated as different things. So they know that this is one set of learning objectives. I hope that answered the questions. Okay. There you go. Yep. ChatGPT can do a lot of things. Yeah. So generative AI in general can do a lot of things. So if you are looking for the answer that the machine can do, I think maybe we haven't think enough why we are here in the university, because I think we should again think that our students are human. They can only do a lot of things that we give them the expectations for. If we expect them to be just reporting on what machines can do, I think we are not giving them good expectations, or we don't really honor their ability to actually do wonders, and they can do wonders. Is there any other questions?
There's one question, which is it applicable for elementary language learning?
Elementary language learning, like, can anyone from the elementary learning and language learning unmute and then feel free to ask the questions directly? What do you mean by elementary language learning?
This question is asked from, I think, Datin Sabaria Bakri.
Okay. All right, Datin. So I think, for example, like learning English as a second language, is that what you're asking? Okay. So it's probably a little bit interesting to have it at language as first, as a second language, learning language as a second language, and then you have case study. I think it would be a lot more meaningful if you are using it in small scale without the protagonist, for example. The small scale, less complex, small case study, less complex, and then you bring it into, like, say maybe a number of weeks, which the students have started to feel comfortable analyzing, or feel comfortable in dig deeper into issues related to language, for example. I don't know, but I think it can be done, but it will not be able to be implemented at the scale that I have at the moment, because in this case, we already assume that the students are proficient with the language. So the language will not be a concern here. What we want to focus is more what I have here. I want to focus more on the technicalities. I want to focus more on the critical thinking. So language will not be, I will not include language as one of the issues that I would want to address in the learning objectives. But if your learning objective covers the language and the language requires, and then one of your learning outcome, you would want them to have that critical thinking and effective. I think you can have that case study, but make it, you can scale it down and then reduce the complexity so it fits to the user. You can fine tune, you can try using the prompt. Just mention that it's 4 seconds. See what kind of answer you would get from ChatGPT. But I'm very sure scaling even though it gives the answer later on, I'm very sure you have to be careful in scaling it down to the level of your audience. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Please feel free to unmute. I think I'm looking for more instructions, actually. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay, my name is Dr. Razi from College of Engineering.
Okay.
Okay, I have actually one question. Basically, I got the sorry, the data, for example, for the sales data for the 3 months for this year, and then which platform of AI, especially on ChatGPT, that could be better to predict for next another 3 months or something like that. Any suggestion from you?
You want to use the generative AI to analyze the data, is it?
Yeah, the data that we got already, for example, in is 3 months, for example, January, February, March, and April, for example. Now we like to focus on the sale for the next month, for example, in May, using that data, as you mentioned just now, is actually any platform of ChatGPT that could be used or could be analyzed on that.
Okay, it's okay, sure. Yeah, there is, but it's not really related to the case study per se, right? So you want to use the generative AI to analyze the data. I think it's only available in the premium account. So if you are using I don't think they do have in the free one. Let me see whether I can get into the premium one.
What about in ChatGPT 4?
Yeah, ChatGPT 4 is for premium, right? So that's for the premium. You do have that analytics options in the ChatGPT 4 in the premium one. So sorry, premium one actually covers the ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 4.0, the one that it has been viral in the. But let me show you. It has been viral in the internet and in the TV that the machine talk with us directly, and I've used that. Kind of interesting. But yeah, it doesn't. You don't have that, unfortunately, in the free ones for data analytics. Let me show you. See whether I can look into the premium one. Okay, so let me show you in. Okay, let me just share with you this one so it's easier. Okay, so in ChatGPT 4, they actually have more items. So in this case, you have DAL-E, you have data. So the one that if you don't want to construct case studies, you just want to use it for analysis, you can use this one, the data analyst. So this would be a lot more relevant to your inquiries. But again, it's still if you are talking about advanced analytics, it's still far from the kind of things that you can do it through other tools, but still it helps the purpose for EDA, exploratory data analytics. But other than that, I don't find it much useful. So I don't know, or maybe other people have different experience, but from my experience, actually, this could be one of the things that you can do. Okay,
Okay, thank you, Prof.
thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Do I subscribe to Gemini and Cloud? No, I don't. I'm using the free one. There is free version for both. I'm using free one, but you have to register, and it's free registration. You just have to use your email. Cloud is also free. Copilot is also free. Make sure you don't, for Copilot, make sure you don't use IUM account, not the email account, not the live account. Both will not work with this. So I would suggest you have your own Microsoft account. In my case, I'm using Yahoo email address, and then it works. For Cloud, I'm using my other Gmail, which is non-IUM account. So it's free. It's free. Okay. So any other questions? Oh yeah, I think just now there's a questions related to publications, right? So Dr. Nariza, I think you asked about can we publish this? It would be interesting. I'm about to publish my findings from how the student use ChatGPT in the class for exploratory analysis, for exploratory concept, to explore the concept. So people keep saying that all students know how to use ChatGPT and they will always cheat using ChatGPT. But if you give the right activities and then you ask the right questions, you'll be surprised. Many were not able to actually use it properly. So I'm about to publish that because it's kind of worrying the perceptions of the educators and the level of proficiency that the students has when it comes to this. We have a mismatch of expectations apparently, and the students perceive the same thing. My lecturers doesn't know how I'm using it anyway. So this is what is interesting. I think we have to fine tune and we have to keep learning because things change really fast. Last year ChatGPT doesn't have this much features. Now they have this. So in this case, I really hope you would be able to explore more that things have been progressing a lot, especially when it comes to additional tools like Canva. You will be surprised. There's a lot of almost all tools would have the AI prompt and ask you to not just think about what to ask, but think about what would be the end product looks like. So this is very mind-blowing. So a lot of things are actually interesting to explore. And the students have started to explore this. So we have to, I really hope we also keep up the pace. Any other questions?
Prof, if we have already subscribed to the premium version of ChatGPT, you mentioned that in Canva there is also another premium version for ChatGPT as well. Do you have to subscribe the different
No.
both of them?
No. In fact, if you're lucky enough, last time actually, Canva has given a lot of free account to educators, and I managed to get that. When it was offered. So if you manage to get that premium account, educators account using your IUM, you already have the ChatGPT AI thing here in Canva directly. So you don't have to register again. You just simply use it right away.
What I mean is this, for example, you just use the free version of the Canva. You have the premium version of ChatGPT. Is it linked?
Yeah, it's linked. Yeah, you don't have to register to Canva Premium. Is that what you're asking? So do you have to register to Canva Premium? I don't think you have to, because when I use this, it's already linked to Canva. But by right, it will be better if you already have the Canva account link or the same account linked to ChatGPT.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, looking forward. I need to find a time to write. Thank you so much. But yeah, I think that will be all from me, Dr. Malik. Thank you so much, everyone. I really hope it's useful and meaningful. And I really hope with this, and this is not enough, so that you will be able to learn, you will feel motivated to learn more and dig more on this. And may Allah bless you. May Allah bless your good heart. And I know we are putting ourselves as a reason for more students to keep learning and keep advancing with the knowledge. So barakallahu fikum wa ahlikum jami'an. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Prof.
For the very interesting session. Perhaps we can have a photo session, quick photo session. If everyone comfortable, you can switch on the camera for a quick photo session. Right. Okay. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Next page. Okay, next page. The last one. All right, I guess that's all for today's event, a very interesting one. And we would like to also thank all the participants for attending this talk. And make sure you don't forget to fill up the evaluation form that will be emailed to you later. And let's end our today's event with Tasbih Kifara and Suratul Asr. Right, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Thank you so much, everyone.
Syukran, Mira. Assalamualaikum.
Salam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mira. Assalamualaikum, everybody. Thank you.
Welcome. Take care.
Thank you, you too.